Hi, everybody. Meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this Friday evening. I'm still trying to get my schedule back in sync. But I'm going to start with the upper air first and work my way backwards today because I was looking at the weather maps and the guidance today, and it looks pretty interesting all the way around with what's happening. Now, okay, here's the trough in the east from late this afternoon, which we know lifts out, and we set up a big ridge in the east for Monday into Tuesday. And it's pretty obvious, what's happening. You've got a very deep trough that's out in the west, a closed upper air system that's actually pretty far south into southern Oregon, northern Nevada. You've got the northern part of the jet stream just kind of rolling along there. And here we have the big ridge in the east. Now, it's a strong ridge, but it doesn't push all the way up into eastern Canada like some of the other ridges that we've seen. So, yeah, it's going to get hot, but it's only going to get hot for a couple of days. And when we look forward here, you'll see that there's a trough that drops into eastern Canada on Tuesday into Labrador, and there's a bit of an arm that swings around this. And as a result, we're going to get a backdoor front. Now, we're still on the edge of that ridge aloft, but I think the bottom part of the atmosphere is going to cool off a bit on Wednesday and Thursday. This is June. Water temperatures are still cold, and actually ocean water temperatures are running a couple of degrees below normal up in our neck of the woods. So I'm not going to fight it. I still think it could be well into the 70s to around 80, maybe a little warmer as you go further south. But there will be a wind off the ocean, and that's going to keep temperatures from going close to 90 anywhere on Wednesday and Thursday, except when you get further south, say into Virginia, North Carolina. Now, at the end of the week, a trough swings through the Great Lakes and into the Northeast, so that kind of brings a slightly stronger front through. But one of the things that you'll notice as we move into Father's Day weekend here, we have a pretty active Pacific jet going from west to east. And that's important because the active Pacific jet is bringing in relatively cool air. In the wintertime, when you have an active Pacific jet that goes west to east, it tends to bring in milder air because of the time of year. Well, now we're in the summertime, so we have it in reverse. The Pacific air is going to actually be a catalyst to help cool things a bit, and in particular because the southern part of the jet that's in the southern part of Canada looks relatively active. That to me says that could it get hot for a day or two? Sure. Is it going to last for more than that? Not likely. As long as you have the jet moving weather systems along from west to east, you can't get that ridge to kind of lock in, and that's what the overall upper air looks like right through the period is going beyond Father's Day and a little bit further than that. So now we're at Saturday, January 24th, and it's been a couple of runs of the models have done this. You have this jet from Canada. Another trough now is off the west coast, which is different than having the trough inland, and you have a ridge up the Rockies. So I think this is going to mean basically that weather systems are going to be moving through every couple of days. Now, I just wanted you to notice that, again, and I caution anyone that looks at these maps, in the long range, you're going to have models spin up systems, tropical systems, and that's what this particular run did. It actually spins up two of them. Around day 10, it spins up one in the Northwest Caribbean, and I'll show you that. We'll go to the North Atlantic view. And this is the upper air view at day 16, which, it's really pretty. It's useless as a forecast tool at this point. But I show you this because, you know what? It's there for you to look at, being the public. This is tropicaltidbits.com. And it's there. And I don't want anyone to misinterpret this. Now, here's what the models have been doing now for a number of runs. It starts to develop convection in the tropical Pacific, and some kind of lower than normal pressures will exist in the Northwest Caribbean. If this is actually, that is going to be the case. Now, whether something develops out of that or not, I don't know. But the GFS and to an extent the European and the Canadian all developed some kind of tropical system Father's Day weekend in the Northwest Caribbean and then take it out into the Gulf of Mexico. Again, this is to be used very cautiously. and with a lot of skepticism. When we look at the European has lower than normal pressures, but it doesn't really develop anything. It does kind of have something in that northwestern corner of the Caribbean near Belize, but it doesn't ever really get it going as it moves, through at least through day 10. It looks like much of the action is over the Yucatan Peninsula. So, this is something that when we get there, if it's there, we'll deal with it. If it's not, we won't. Okay, that was a pretty straightforward approach. All right, so let's go back to the GFS model so we can look at the surface map. First, we'll do the east, and I'll put the precip on it, and we're going to roll it back if it lets. There it goes. It can be a little stubborn sometimes, so let's roll it back. That's Father's Day weekend. We have this weekend to get through. Okay, so here's that big Atlantic ridge. Now, during the day, late tonight, and again late tomorrow, there could be a brief shower, along with a mix of sun and clouds in between through much of this area, our area here. And let me just get this to move again. Okay, so here we go. So then the hot air comes in, and you can see there's this big high off the Atlantic coast. It's ridged all the way back west of the Mississippi River. So you've got this long westerly flow. I think Sunday probably won't be overly humid. It's Monday and Tuesday. You'll start to get into some humidity. Also, with the fact that you have basically westerly isobars here. So if you're at the shore, the south-facing shorelines, Long Island, Connecticut, and southeastern New England, the shore might actually get pretty warm into the early to mid-afternoon before local sea breezes take over. And I don't know that they'll penetrate that far inland with those westerly isobars. Now, here we are Tuesday evening, and here's that backdoor front right about there. So it's just about coming through. And, it's a warm front back through here, and you've got cooler air on northeast winds that'll be taking over, and that is going to be some of that is going to be coming in time as we go into Wednesday. You'll see that high settle down the coast, so the wind does come in from off the ocean. At this point, it looks kind of dry, but I don't want to rule out the possibility of some clouds, particularly low clouds, getting involved. And we have a southeast flow here on Thursday, so I think that means that we are going to see temperatures probably in the 70s, and then that warm front comes on through for Friday into Saturday. There's another weather front approaching. Now, the isobars here are, at this point, south to north, so that's where it's going to get humid. We'll probably see some downpours and maybe some thunderstorms to deal with Father's Day weekend, if this is right, particularly if low pressure gets going out to the west. So it looks like it's going to be a warm, humid weekend with some downpours and a few thunderstorms running around until the front can clear the coastline sometime maybe on Monday the 19th or the 20th. And you can see, weather systems continue to move right along. There's another front that comes in later that week, and another high goes out to the south as we go through June. Now we're at June 25th, and the high goes out to the south. So here, it would indicate that you would get warm for maybe a day or two, and that would be about it. So I'm not really looking at any kind of long-term heat wave developing, at least in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states, the way things are shaping up now. In the West, as we look at what's going on there, it's kind of taking a bit of a summertime look to it, but there are a few things going on ahead of it. With this trough in the west, you actually have rain and even some snows in the higher elevations in the Northwest this weekend. And there's some rain in California, Northern California into Nevada and Idaho, with a system in the Rockies, and even some snows in parts of Nevada and Idaho and into Wyoming. There it is, Tuesday the 13th, still showing some snow up that way. It's amazing. And once that goes and you get more of a ridge here, it looks like the weather does calm down a bit. The action starts to shift offshore in the Northwest with more troughing in the east. So you get to a bit more of a summery pattern, or a late spring, early summery pattern in the western part of the United States as we go through Father's Day weekend and beyond. So, that pretty much sizes it up from the standpoint of the models. I just want to show you, in terms of severe weather risk for the overnight, we have a slight risk of severe up in the Dakotas. You can see this sort of general area of thunderstorms being indicated across the northern tier from from coast to coast, but no thunderstorms at all being forecast over a good chunk of the country where you might normally expect it, and a marginal risk in east central Texas here, a small area of marginal risk being indicated from the Storm Prediction Center. And when you look at Saturday, just a couple of areas of marginal risk in the northern plains and in the upper Great Lakes. And otherwise, we have a couple of areas of general thunderstorms. And when we look for Sunday, as we finish off the weekend, you have this band of marginal risk from, again, the northern plains into the upper Midwest. No thunderstorm risk here in the northeastern mid-Atlantic, which would make sense with that big high and the westerly flow. Okay, so look at the satellite. Here's this storm off the Nova Scotia that's moving away to the northeast, and here's your warm front that's heading east with some showers tonight, moving across Pennsylvania. Very few, but just some. But notice a large chunk of the country doesn't have a lot of cloud cover in it. It's really starting to the look on the satellite would be typical of an early summer, late spring, early summer pattern. Here in the west, you can see that trough getting ready to come into the west right in here. Moisture coming into the Pacific Northwest. And with respect to the radars this evening, you have activity in the western and the northern Rockies, some strong storms in the Dakotas, and on up into Minnesota where we had that risk of severe. Also, we've got some activity across southern Florida and a little bit of activity going on into Maine. And here are the showers marking the warm front, the weak warm front that's moving east, that's going to bring in the hot temperatures. So I'm thinking Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, we'll see temperatures. Sunday, not all places will get to 90, but some places will. Probably more places will get to 90 than don't get to 90. Monday, I think everybody gets to 90, even shore locations and south-facing shorelines. Monday would be a great beach day to go cool off, even though the ocean water temperatures are still cold. And Tuesday will be hot with temperatures reaching up, I think, into the 90s before that backdoor cold front settles on to the south. So we'll leave it at that as we go into the weekend. Website posts on meteorologistjoechaffee.com, Angry Ben on nycweathernow.com, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Welcome if you're brand new. Welcome back if you are a regular. Hit the little red subscribe button. It's absolutely free, and it grows my subscriber base, and we can have more and more fun with more and more conversation. You can post your comments. Feel free to comment on whatever you like. I try to get to all of them. If I don't get to them on the same day, I get to them on the second day, but I do get to them. All right, everybody, have a great Friday night and a great weekend.